All right, team. Well, we're going to go ahead and get things started. We want to make sure that we honor everybody's time. We've got 45 minutes of nonstop, action-packed authorship, leadership, all the different ships with lovely Julie Nee. We're excited to have her on. Before I pass it off to Alex to kind of give her a little bit more of an introduction, just want to do a few housekeeping things. The first thing, if you are not on our LinkedIn group, go ahead and head over there and make sure that you are on that group. I'll be sure to send the link to join in the comments section here. And that is where, if you haven't been there, Alex has been posting some speaking opportunities that he's been getting. So we're going to start getting those in there as much as possible, just to give you guys some more value, some more opportunities to get some speaking in there, to get some opportunities to move some books. So a lot of in between these monthly coaching calls, that's where we're going to be at in that group. So with that said, I'm going to go ahead and pass it off to Alex to introduce Julie.
Yeah, Nathan, that's great. And guys, just first a little update on the Streamline team the last week. So we got back yesterday morning from the National Speakers Association. Has anyone here been to NSA before? I guess just put in the chat if you've been there. Would be curious. But I've been speaking for about 6 years now, and I've never been there. And I'd heard about it. I heard it was amazing. And let me just tell you, like, we were blown away as a team. It was amazing. So just to picture this, there's over 1,000 keynote speakers there. I mean, from people who just are getting into speaking to, oh, Jessica, cool, you've been to the local one. Yeah, that was cool as well, because there was all these like local NSA chapters that go to this main event. So Jessica, you'd love it. But essentially there's like 1,100 keynote speakers there, authors, people that, want to speak, want to do more speaking, all the way from people who have never done a speaking engagement to people who are making well over $1 million a year speaking. And so you just get to meet from awesome people. John Gordon was the headline keynoter. So that was amazing for our team to get time with John. And that's going to be a cool thread as Julie and I talked today, and the impact that he's had on our lives. But it was truly amazing. So just know the vision that we had when we were at this conference, because it was in Florida this year. Next year it's in Colorado. We just had this cool vision of like, okay, it will be such a cool like reunion next year to get as many Streamline authors as we can to go. There is an investment that you pay through NSA. It's like $1,000, but I will just say, like, the things that I learned, even from a speaking perspective, were well worth over $1,000 of value. And one thing I would also say is I have a mentor that she's been speaking for 20 years, and she goes to NSA religiously every year, and she's been telling me about it. And finally we went. And a big part of her speaking business are referrals she gets from other NSA speakers. So like people she meets at this event who they get to know each other year after year. So when she gets an inquiry for a speaking engagement on a date that she can't speak, well, now she knows all these people that she can send over there. So just as a plug, casting the vision, we'll let you know when we know of dates for that conference, but you guys just can plan on being in Colorado next year. Yeah, Will.
Yeah. I mean, it was, I co-signed everything Alex just said. It was pretty clear to us when Alex and I got there, like, oh man, this community has been forming. You had people who had been going for the last 10, 20, 30 years. So honestly, kind of a number of old hats, who they've been crushing it for years, and they'd show up and it was like, hey, Jimmy, how the heck are you? How's your family? Like, so we were definitely kind of the new kids on the block, if you will. So it was just so fun to learn from people. Would love if you desire any more information, because we want to get kind of this new wave of potential speakers and authors, and we want to do that through our Streamline community. With that being said, real quick, I noticed Dale just hopped on. Guys, Dale, good to see you.
Thank you.
If you were here for our call last month with Dale, it was just dynamite. We have since uploaded that to YouTube. And I hate that even Julie has to follow, the Dale call, but I can't think of anyone better, because Julie, July, Joy, we just knew that it was in the stars that this call had to happen this month. So,
dude, those 3 J's right there, Will, you couldn't have said any better. So yeah, guys, I'm super honored to kind of introduce Julie today. So just for some context of how Julie and I know each other. So Julie and I have been connected through the John Gordon companies, and Julie's just amazing. She has a super decorated background in sales and leadership that maybe she can talk about here in a second. She also went in 2019, she went through something that was pretty life-changing, and I'll let her talk about that. But I'll just say that the impact that Julie has on companies across America is unbelievable. And I've seen it personally, whether it's in person. Julie and I actually did a co-speaking engagement last December together. So that was fun. We worked with this company out of St. Louis, and it was like a virtual, and like Julie crushed it. Like all the people loved her. And so, I guess, Julie, thank you for being here. And Julie, would you just want to maybe tell us a little bit about your background and how you got here to where you're at today?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. Thank you so much for having me. And you are so right that it's tough to follow Dale. So, but my background is in sales and sales leadership. I worked with the Hershey company for 19 years, and I sold candy and led teams all over the US. Great organization, crazy full circle thing that I'm actually doing work with them now over the last couple of years in my current capacity, which is the coolest thing ever. But about probably 10 years ago, a guy on my team gave me a copy of John Gordon's book, The Energy Bus. And I started putting the principles from The Energy Bus into practice with my team at Hershey. And I saw how our team started to thrive, not only when the business was good, but when the chips were down and the business got hard, we were able to kind of rise above. So I started building a relationship with John, and I read a lot of books and wrote a lot of letters. I stalked him in airports. I brought him in to speak at an executive women's group here in Charlotte, where I live. So I built the relationship over a few years, and finally got to a point where in December of 2014, I sent him kind of the last letter before we started working together. And I said, top 5 reasons why we should work together in 2015. And he called me a couple days later and he said, what do you want to do with this? And I was like, I want to speak about the energy bus. Like, the world needs to hear this message, as if he wasn't delivering it himself already. But anyway, he said, how much money do you make? And he was asking me all these questions about my job. And I was like, And he said, here's a recommendation. Don't quit your day job yet, and go out and speak for free and see if you actually like it before you leave your job, which was an excellent recommendation. So I did, and I just went out and started speaking about the energy bus to junior leagues and Rotary clubs and women's groups and really anyone who would listen. And after about 6 months, I decided, yes, this is absolutely the path for me. And so I left Hershey, and that was about coming up on 8 years ago. It'll be 8 years in October, and have been just kind of building. I started speaking, then I started building workshops, then I built the Power of Positive Leadership training with John. And then I had the opportunity to be surrounded by so many amazing teammates and authors that I think I just kind of got inspired that maybe there's a story inside me to share. So that's what brought me to Mirror Mirror. And after writing notes on my iPhone for about 3 years and talking about it and taking zero action, I decided I need someone. Thank you, Alex. I needed someone to hold me accountable. So I decided to hire Alex and the Streamline team to help me get that thing to the finish line. So I'm so glad I did that.
Yeah. And yeah, obviously I've seen you, Julie, speak so many times. It's amazing in person, great virtually as well. Really quick before we dive into a lot of these things, in 2019, what did you go through? How are you doing since then? If you don't mind just sharing, because I think there's so much power in the way that you reacted, and you impacted so many people with your story and what you went through.
Thank you, Alex. In 2019, I went through a breast cancer experience, and essentially it was mastectomy, 5.5 months of chemo, 30 radiation treatments. In 2020, a couple of reconstruction surgeries, all the things, bald, all the things. So it was a hard year. And it was funny because after 2019, and by the way, during 2019, I was so living in my purpose in terms of what I'm doing with my job that I would walk into all of my oncology appointments, whether it was the regular oncologist, the surgical oncologist, the radiation oncologist. By the way, I never knew there were so many oncologists until I was in it. But I would walk in with my calendar and I'd be like, okay, well, I have an event here. So how many weeks, between this and me being able to travel? And can we shift this around? And can we do a little bit of this? Because I got to be at these things. I got to be delivering these trainings. Like, the oncologists and my husband were like, are you serious? Like, you have cancer. I'm like, yeah, peace out, people. Like this is just, we're going to get through this, but I'm over here and I'm going to keep doing this. So it was kind of crazy how it all came to pass. But it's funny that you mentioned it too, Alex, because, you know, we all have our stuff. But one of our teammates and kind of extended trainers mentioned a specific situation to me last week. And he said, I remember when I first met you in Dallas and we had dinner together. And we were all having dinner together. And at the time I had a wig on. It was like May or June-ish of 2019. And I mentioned to John Gordon, I said, you know, I do have a little bit of hair under here. I guess it must've been a little later. Maybe it was toward August. My hair was like just starting to grow back. And he was like, well, if you want to take off the wig, go for it for tomorrow, for our training tomorrow. And I was like, eh. And all the team was like super encouraging. And they were like, you should do it. You should do it. You should do it. And so the next day I took my wig off. I mean, not in front of everyone. I went downstairs with no wig. And my hair was literally like this short, like a centimeter. It was so short, maybe more than a centimeter, but it was short. And I did it. And of course, everyone was like, oh, you look great. You look great. You look great. And now I look at the pictures and I'm like, who told me to go downstairs with my hair looking that short? But anyway, that's just what we do to ourselves. That is what we do to ourselves. And I did write about some of this inside Mirror and really how mean I was to myself in the mirror when I was bald and I had no eyelashes and no eyebrows and I was scared of myself and I was mean to myself in the mirror. And I did write about that in Mirror as well. So, yeah.
Wow. Well, thank you for sharing that. Super inspiring. And I watched you go through it and yeah, super inspiring. I guess one question just to kick this off, because we have people who have already written a book on here, some people who are thinking about it. I mean, you've already, because I know you, not everyone on the call maybe does, but you've achieved great levels of success, like pre-book, right? And so I guess what I'm saying is you did not need to write a book technically, but you did. And so I guess my point is, like, why did you write Mirror? Why did you write this book? Why was it this message for you that you decided to finally share with the world?
Well, I wrote Mirror and I wore this t-shirt on purpose today for you guys, but if you can't read it, it says, let your light shine. And one of my girlfriends gave this to me after the book came out. But the real reason why I wrote it, aside from the professional part, the personal part is it's a dark world and people are going through really hard things. And the facts are they're hard. We all have stuff, right? Everybody's got stuff going on behind this mask and everybody has kind of external hardships. And I really just wanted to remind people that we all have a light inside and there are ways that we can turn up the dimmer switch, you know, because a lot of people are dimmed or even feel like their light is out right now because things have been so hard and people are struggling. And I just want to give people just kind of little ways, incremental ways to turn up that dimmer switch. You know, I felt like when I was writing it, and I think I even wrote something about this in the foreword, like, this is not a substitute for mental health care, blah, 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 blah. Like I felt like I had to say a disclaimer because I'm not saying I can solve all your problems, but I'm going to give you some tools that maybe can help you feel a little better and just turn that switch up. So really just bringing some light into a dark world. That's the short version, Alex.
Wow. No, that's awesome. And something at the National Speakers Association this past weekend that I took notes on, really paid attention to, and we were in a lot of different workshop sessions, and the main events that like John spoke at is the speakers, like the high performing speakers, authors, speakers, they approach their speaking business like a business. And I think a lot of people, when they think, yeah, I'm going to do a book and I'm going to go out, it's almost, I was convicted this weekend because I think there's ways that I've been approaching my speaking business as almost like a hobby. And from a process standpoint, from a CRM, from a follow-up, and Julie, one thing I've really respected and looked up to you in is, you know, I know like utilizing HubSpot or like the details, the quality of the things that you do in your presentation is super inspiring for me. I have to really work hard on detail-oriented things, but you're really good at those things. And I guess for everyone's knowledge, I guess, Julie, to ask you, what is your focus when it comes to whether it's keynotes, workshop, trainings? Like, do you have a set goal of like, I want to do this many gigs a year? Is it, I want to make this much revenue every year? Is it, I just go where I feel led? Obviously you have an awesome family, and so you have those priorities as well. Like, what would you say are kind of your goals post book launch for you? If you have any specific goals or maybe just mindsets that you have when it comes to your speaking as a business, not just like, oh, I got to go make an impact, which is awesome, but you also run it like a business, and I know you do.
Absolutely. And you'll remember, Alex, that one of the conversations we had when we were leading up to kind of signing the contract to engage and work with Streamline was having a book is a way to increase your speaking fees. And that's the facts. I mean, we all can't, and you mentioned family and life and balance and whatever. And I think for all of us, we have a finite amount of time. And so how do we make more money in the same amount of time? And one way is to have some kind of residual income, whether that's a course or a product or a whatever we're doing, right? And another way is to be able to charge a little bit more every time we go get on a plane or even jump on virtually or whatever. And there is a bit of cachet that comes with having a book. There really, really is. So I think that was part of it, being able to kind of elevate and bring that additional level of credibility to my speaking. So really, I have to say, I love doing workshops. So I love keynotes. I'll come back to that, but I love doing workshops and things that are two-way with people. So I love being able to get to know people and give them something to think about and talk about and then feed it back in and just see that kind of growth through application, where keynotes are more of that one-way delivery. So I like workshops. So just as it relates to kind of mirror specifically, I really do want to build out a workshop to go with it as well. But I do want to get out and start doing some keynotes. So as Alex mentioned, I work with John Gordon. I do keynotes and workshops and training on John Gordon stuff all the time, but I've done one mirror keynote. So one, and I launched in April. So I really do want to get out and do some more mirror keynotes and really talk about the book and how to apply it. I will say though, from a business building perspective, as I work with my clients and as I'm negotiating contracts and whatever, I'm not trying to mix messages between my work and John Gordon's work at all, but I do mention that I'm an author. You know, that's part of my intro also. Julie Nee is a speaker, trainer, and new author, So then clients start asking about that. And I just was in Puerto Rico last week where the client bought books for everyone in the audience. So that's 220 copies. It's not a ton, but it's 220 books that got in people's hands. I got an incredible note from the client the day he was on his way home that there was this woman struggling. She had an emotional support dog on the plane and she had been going through all these things. And he said he was reading Mirror and he saw her looking at the title and he just could tell she was really struggling, and they talked a little bit and he ended up saying she needed it more than I did. So I gifted her my book and then I ordered another one. And wow. So that kind of ripple effect extension of just getting our books into people's hands, it is a business. And so Alex, to your point about that, I gave them the books at cost. So I didn't even, it wasn't like they paid through Amazon. I bought author copies and passed that along to them at cost. So I think there are lots of ways to do it. I hope that answered your question.
Yeah. Oh, that's an amazing answer. And I mean, that's so cool. You said only one keynote on Mirror, but that's more than zero. And you just told that amazing story of that many books because the reality is I've seen it. I'm sure all the authors on here could attest, like, you just never know who you're handing that book to and what they're going to book you in the future for. Something, Julie, you mentioned that I wanted to hit on just for people, maybe if you're new into speaking. You mentioned keynote, workshop, and training. And I remember when I got into the industry, it all was kind of the same to me. I guess, Julie, do you mind just going over the differences briefly and then how you have been able to upsell? Because I've seen you do it really good, where sometimes, whether it's a survey or showing the client that, hey, here's the value that we've added, here's what your people are telling us, what about another engagement? So can you just break down those three and how to upsell those opportunities?
Yes, of course. So keynote, of course, is a one-way delivery of a message. Most of the time, one way. Maybe you're going to have some audience engagement with a raised hand or a high five or something like that, but it's a mostly one-way delivery of a theme or talk or whatever. Usually it's about 45 minutes to an hour. For us, what we call a workshop is something around 3 hours-ish. It could be 2 to 4 hours. And then for us, we call a training a full day or longer experience. So it's really the depth between each of those things, but on the workshops and the training, much more interactive experience and application activities. So this was a great tip John Gordon taught me, and you might have shared this before, Alex, but even when building a talk, he shared principle. So you share the principle, what is the thing? then a story about that principle, and then application. So principle, story, application. So really just inside the workshops and the trainings, a lot more time for application. So maybe it's a table discussion, maybe it's some fun get up and question each other activity, maybe it's a flip chart activity, maybe it's whatever, but it's the activities really where people remember things that, you know. And so, and to your point about upselling, hey, when you do a keynote, there's more, don't leave without asking for more, whether that's a QR code to buy your book or download this free action plan, or hey, I happen to do workshops and trainings if you want to dig into this a little bit further. Whatever it is that you want to talk about next, a keynote, I look at that as like the appetizer. And then the other ones are really where you get into the main course and maybe even the dessert, maybe the resources that you share afterwards are the dessert. So yeah.
That's really good, because when I first started speaking, I honestly, like when you say a 5-hour engagement, when I first started, I was like, there ain't no way I can do something for 5 hours. Like, and no one's going to want to hear me for that long. But I remember attending your trainings, and what's crazy now, like a few years later, I actually look forward to those 3-hour or 5-hour sessions, because to your point, you get to know, usually it's, for me, it's usually a smaller group. So maybe it's, 25 to 100 people. It's more of a training environment, and what's cool is with the sale, my book, we have this action plan that goes along with it. So there's, just like you with POPL, positive leadership, there's an action plan. It's in a keynote, which it's amazing, and you get to hype them up. You don't really get to see as much of sometimes you don't get to see like the after effect, where Julie, I've seen in your trainings where, there are people crying, there are people sharing things with each other where they're literally like crying. And I see that in some of mine as well. And it's like, I didn't think that I was going to like this 3 to 5 hour thing, but I've really been looking forward to them. And so, Julie, here's a random question. And maybe you don't have a specific number on this, but can you think of an example where you got like one opportunity, maybe it's one speaking engagement, maybe you did it for free, and then like how many engagements did that turn into? And maybe there's not like an actual number, but is there a specific example of like a client that you've been like, well, I did one thing for free and then it turned into boom, boom, boom? Any stories on the top of your head that you could share with us?
I can't think of a free one off the top of my head, but I can think of some paid ones.
Yeah, even paid. Yeah.
So yeah, I would say probably 50% of my clients are repeat customers. So I'll give you an example. There's one client that I go to every year, and I started out doing kind of an extended energy bus driver of positive change program for them for something called their Rising Stars group. So I did it 1 year. They liked it so much. Oh, can you come back and do next year's class of Rising Stars? Now can you come? So I've been doing it now for 6 years. It used to be once a year. Then they were like, you know what? We want to give them something in the spring and something in the fall. So can you do the power of positive leadership in the spring? And can you do Energy Bus in the fall? Yes, I sure can. And that's an oil and gas company. There's a called Gardner or GD Energy Products now. Wells Fargo is another example. I was doing a certain kind of subset of their business, and I did that a couple years in a row. And then they said, hey, we're doing this whole diverse development program, and we're going to do a thing every single quarter. Can you do that? And I did that all year last year. So definitely it involves some customization and some different elements bringing in. So it's not like it's a rinse and repeat every session. You're kind of having to tweak and customize, but for sure, lots of repeat customers. And I think that's about what we bring, right? So when we bring great content and our best energy and best preparation, they're going to want us to keep coming back. Yeah. And you said something, Alex, you said, who's going to want to listen to me talk for 3 hours? They're not listening to us talk for 3 hours. They're listening to us initiate an idea, have a little bit of a conversation and teaching, and then sending them into some type of activity or interaction that they're going to do. And then they're going to feed back all their brilliance to us. So we always say the brilliance is in the room, because it really is. Once they start collaborating and engaging with each other, that's where all the power comes from. Oh my gosh, that's so cool. Yeah, and he said that, and that's so cool. And then everybody just builds on each other, and they walk away with so much more than I could deliver on my own.
That's gold, because you're so right. You go into it thinking like, oh man, I got to talk but no, sometimes it's when you ask a question and then just go silent and see what they say, that it's like the biggest breakthroughs. Last big question I want to ask before we transition to Will, and then for questions people have for you, Julie, is you taught me, and you talked about a sales framework early on in my sales career when we were both connected with John Gordon early on. That was really impactful. And the reason I think if you're willing to share with us here is because as authors and speakers, we kind of forget this, but we're all in sales. We're all selling our brand, our message, whatever you speak about, whatever your book is about. And Julie, you've mastered this. And so was just curious if you would be willing to share this framework, because it really, I think, is something for all of us to take with us.
Yes, absolutely. And just so you all know, I learned this probably, I'm going to really age myself now, maybe 30 years ago when I was very junior in my Hershey career. And it was like sales training 101, right? And so this model that they taught us, it's called Get, Give, Gain. So Alex gave me a quick heads up so I could draw it on a piece of paper for you. So you can see this Get, Give, Gain here is an inverted triangle. And really what the triangle illustrates is that this is the time, this is the percentage of time you should spend in each area of the sales process. So the get is all about get information, asking questions. So when we're engaging with a new client, the majority of our time should be spent on asking questions. Tell me about your business. What are your struggles? What do you think the biggest opportunities are? What are you guys working on inside your culture? You know, whatever your topic is, ask as many questions as possible and take notes, because then the give is give a tailored solution. So now I'm not just saying, hi, nice to meet you. Here are all my offerings. Nobody cares. And it's not relevant to them unless you've gotten information about them and learned as much as you possibly can about them. So now it's give a tailored solution. Wow, I heard you say that you guys are really struggling with negativity. And we've got an incredible negativity toolbox. I'd love to share more about that with you in our session. And maybe we can add some extra time to the negativity section of the training. And then they're like, oh, that's so awesome. So the last piece is gain commitment. So in theory, you should be spending the least amount of time on getting to yes and gaining that commitment from your client, because you've already done the work up here and you've given them a solution that works for them. So the gaining commitment piece is just super fast and easy in theory. Now, obviously, this is very simplified, but I do think that, I mean, it's stuck with me my whole career, right? Like if I shared it with Alex from 30 years ago, it kind of works. So just making that client feel heard and valued and understood before you give them your offerings, so it doesn't feel like you're coming in with your price list. You know, here's my stuff. What do you want?
Yes.
You know?
Yes. You guys, the big plot twist here is that we're actually in the middle of a 3-hour workshop. Congratulations. We're here for the next 3 hours because I think that we have too much good content to go over. But knowing that this is a 45-minute call, keeping us somewhat on, this is just unbelievable, Julie. Thank you so much. And in the spirit of opening up the floor, you guys, there's a little raise hand button. If one of you guys has a question for Julie, just would love to hear from someone just kind of with a point blank question. It's the raise hand, looks like a high five.
Well, I would say we've got 2 questions in the chat that I'd love to open up the floor to. Bo, you had a question. Do you want to go ahead and ask that to Julie? You're on mute, Bo. You got to take it off.
Hey, first of all, thanks, Julie, for that so much. Just in the 10 or 15 minutes, I learned a ton. So this is in regard to your workshops. You mentioned that they're kind of diversified. How do you diversify them? Do you tailor them to a specific audience that you're entertaining, or do you come into something just like, okay, this week we're going to do something different, or say it's just, you know, is it specific to the people who you are, you know, having in your workshop?
I would say it's less specific to the people and much more specific to the content. So for example, I was just working with one of my teammates yesterday, and we were working on an icebreaker for a workshop, and we were like, what should this be? And we were thinking about and researching and doing all these icebreaker things, but it wasn't connected to the topic that we were talking about. We finally found the perfect question that we were going to ask. So I think the activities should not be random. The activities should be very integrated to what you're talking about. If you're talking about coaching, then you should figure out activities that give people to practice, opportunities to practice coaching, and in different ways. So once I create a workshop, it's going to be the same activities inside that workshop for whatever the topic is, but it's going to be very well connected. Let's just say it's this, right? It's whatever your book is. So it's going to be very well connected to whatever I'm talking about inside here, the activities are.
basically just sticking to your brand.
Yes.
Okay, gotcha. No, that clears up a lot of, thank you. I appreciate it very much.
And Nathan, I see the next question in the chat, so I can just pull it. So pricing. Usually I price a keynote at whatever I don't want to say lowest, but let's just say there's a base price for the keynote. And then the longer it gets, like if it's, I'm going to just make up numbers. Don't get hung up on any of the numbers. I'm just making them up. If the keynote's 10,000, a workshop might be 12,000 and a full day training might be 15,000. Or you can apply that lower, 5, 7, 10, or 3, 5, 7,500 or whatever. So always, and by the way, I'm sure you guys all know this, but always plus travel and materials. We should never be sucking up the travel or the materials cost. If you have a workbook or whatever, the client should be paying for that.
Hey, Julie, this is Mark Martinez. I have a question. Really enjoyed your story and your background. How much of your current success is attributed to what you've been able to do with John? And I know the obvious answer is quite a bit, right? But if Julie was not associated with John, do you think you would be where you are today?
100% no.
Okay.
So it's a very, very high level of correlation between having the John brand, where in terms of the speed in which this happened. And I'm so glad you asked that, Mark, because I mentioned at the beginning, it's been almost 8 years. And when I left Hershey, I was like, oh, I'm going to crush this right off the bat. Like, I'm going to be making all the money. I'm going to be doing all the things. Like, the first 3 years were so brutal. Like, on the third year, my husband and I were having a conversation, like, how much longer can we do this before you go back and get a real job? So then the fourth year, it got a little better. And the fifth year, it got a little better. And, we had a few little blips like cancer and COVID and stuff in there. But nonetheless, like, John has been a huge, huge part of it. But I also will say it's on me to bring my absolute best to a client. And you might have heard me say earlier, 50% of my business is repeat business. So yes, the foundation from John is indisputable. But once I've gone and delivered for a client, I get asked back a lot. So it's both now.
Well, I appreciate that because like yourself, I'm coming out of corporate America, 38 years, and had established a lot of relationships and thought, man, I'm just going to lean into all of those relationships, those people who know me, love me, and like me, or that's what they said when I was in leadership, right? Yep. And now it's like, hey, I wrote a book, guys. I want to come talk to your company. And they're like, crickets, right? And so I don't think many organizations are, and maybe I'm wrong here, are maybe smaller to mid-tier organizations are accustomed to having speakers come in on a frequent basis. It's kind of usually like a one-off. But yes, listen, it's been, and I'm not 8 years into it. I'm 4 months into it, but it's been a tougher slog than I thought, because I just simply thought, hey, these people know me, they love me, they say they like me. Why won't they pay me to come talk to them? And oh, by the way, if you don't want to pay me, I'll come do it for free. But they're still like, and we'll see. So, okay,
I would love to have a one-off conversation with you, because I know we don't have time for all this, but I would love to talk to you about the journey and also ways to barter. Like, for anyone who's just jumping out of corporate and finding ways to barter, you're right. Nobody was paying me. My first speaking engagement was $500. I was like, are you serious? This used to be maybe a half an hour of work for me. And now, like, I'm traveling to a speaking engagement for $500. What? But anyways, the point is, then I started learning how to barter. So, hey, I'll come in for free, but I want 3 referrals, or I'll come in for free, or can you record it? I'll come in for free, or can you take pictures? Whatever. So you're getting stuff to help build your brand, build your website, get some referrals, do some things. And those things are really high value. Or I'll come in for free, buy 50 books or 100 books or 200 books. You don't have to pay me to speak. So anyway, ways to barter too. But let's have a one-off if you want, Mark.
Yeah, we'll make that connection happen for sure. You guys, this is it. Like, this is the power of community, and knowing that even though 10 minutes left, yes, we'll fly through. We're so grateful for y'all's time, and we want to create these connections beyond the call, whether it's in the LinkedIn group, sharing, an email connection, we'll do it. So real quick, because I know we sent out the agenda this morning, Nathan did that. And Julie, you shared the inverted funnel. That is it. And that really is the nature of this call as well. When we say teaching, coaching, and giving, We want teaching to be pretty broad, you know, with Julie and all of her expertise and her story. Coaching is this next section that we'll fly through, and then giving, we want to give you guys a resource. I think inverted funnel is maybe my new favorite shape. When Julie held it up, I said yes, because that's how we structure this call. You know, it's a piece of pizza. It's a tortilla chip. You know, it's a great shape. And so I think that with this coaching section, we are talking about, gosh, just the power in having a high quality website and landing page. And then just the power of kind of public testimonials. And so I think Nathan is going to share his screen that is going to, Julie, surprise, share your amazing website. Yeah, whether it's mirrorbook.com or even Nathan, if you could pull up julieknee.com, it just shows how and we're calling this section, you know, the power of having a crystal clear website. We thought, well, that's great for Mirror. Julie's website, if you guys get a chance to look at it, it's clear, it's actionable. She obviously has julieknee.com locked down. And so when you think about that, man, you could go to GoDaddy right now and see, is your name available, you know, just to own that space, own that domain. And as you scroll through the website like Nathan's doing now, does it, one, show what you're about, your message, what you do? Is a call to action clear? And then do you have kind of public testimonials or a reputable, hey, here's who I've done speaking with in the past? Obviously, if it's not Hershey or these awesome big organizations that Julie's done, are you at least getting the ball rolling? So yeah, Julie, do you maybe want to speak to just kind of what has gone into your web presence and how that could maybe helps others as they're getting started?
Yes. And I'll just say, super huge mental block for me. It took me a few years to get this up and going because I was like, oh, I can build this myself. I can't build it myself. So I paid someone to do this. It was great a few years ago, but it needs to be refreshed. And I have my next meeting with my website gal on Friday. So this whole thing is going to be refreshed. But even the book one, like Mirror Book, I mean, it may not be perfect, but it's nice to have something for your book specifically. But anyway, I agree. Super clarity. I mean, the thing I like about it is it's clear and it shows what I do. This looks weird, this view on the left side, but anyways, but you can see what I want you to do. I want you to order a copy. I want you to get a free gift. It's just like a simple little couple of downloads, and then share the shine, which the whole book is 5 reflections to clear the fog and help you shine. So, but yeah, then it tells a little bit about the book and so forth. So yeah, do what you need to do, figure it out yourself. But if it's a mental block for you, if you need to hire somebody to do it, then hire somebody to do it, because having it is important. And I really dragged my feet for a long time because I thought I was going to figure it out and I didn't. So I'm all for farming out the things that I'm not good at.
Yeah, totally. So good. Again, guys, this is another one that's just tailor-made for a next follow-up. If you have any questions or thoughts, or just, you know, pick our brains, or it's me, Alex, Nathan, the kind of giving resource that we're going to provide for you all this week, we're calling it, the crystal clear website exercise, because we've shared a number of these actionable PDFs with you over the last few months. This PDF that Nathan's going to send after the call is, just kind of a quick exercise. You don't have to fill out the PDF, but it's just to get you thinking, do you have your website locked down? Are you happy with your website? And if you have any questions about next steps or website refresh, or if you need a full new website through Streamline, we have a bunch of different connections and would love to get you hooked up there as well. But yeah, I mean, Alex and Julie, I don't know if we want to open up to another question or two, or Alex, if you want to.
Yeah, maybe I have one more question. And if you guys want to think of any other questions you have, Julie, I would just say maybe one. What would you say? Mark, I love your honesty and just how you're out there, you're grinding. Like, I've just watched Julie do that for 7 years now. I guess, Julie, what would you say for the person? I can resonate with you. I went from corporate to then full-time speaking. Julie, you've had a ton of success. And even Mark, that question was great about, hey, John Gordon. Julie was correct in what she said, but if John was on this call, he would say the Power of Positive Leadership training program is not the way it is. It's because of Julie and me. And so I know she's not going to brag on herself, but I just want to, because I've seen it firsthand, and John would agree. But Julie, what would you say for someone who's like, okay, I know I want to, whether it's book or even just, get out there, to what Mark is saying, get out there, get engagements under my belt, share the story that's I feel convicted to share. Because we were so hyped up after being at this conference this weekend and seeing thousand speakers who do it. You're one of those people, Julie, who you're doing it at a high level. I see a bunch of other people on the call too that do as well. What's your encouragement to someone who's like, I have this message, I know I need to refine it, change it, but I want to go out and share it? What would your best advice that people could do to just start sharing their story?
Well, I mean, and John said this to me a long time ago, but speakers speak, writers write. So if you want to be speaking, go speak. Rotary Club. I'm a Rotarian, so this is just one example, but Rotary clubs all over are looking for speakers. It's free, of course, but Rotary clubs, junior leagues, women's groups, people in your industry, whatever your genre is that your book is about, go find them and go start speaking for free. The more reps you get, the better you're going to get when you start getting paid. I wasn't that great at the beginning, and now I feel like I'm a lot better, and I'm always getting better the more times I do it. So to the extent that you can just get reps in a low risk place, go do that. And the other thing I would just add is believe in yourself and speak life into yourself when you start to have the doubts, because we all do. And I had so many doubts, and there were so many times where I was like, who am I to think I can be a speaker? Who am I to think I can be a trainer? So, and I had to speak those words into myself. And I also had to look at the record. And when I say look at the record, I had to go back and look at my entire 20-year career with Hershey and say, wait a second, how many times did I speak on stages? How many times did I speak in front of senior leaderships? How many times did I lead women's groups? How many times did I do trainings? How many times did I do all these things? And once I really looked at the record, I'm like, okay, I'm not playing the amateur game here. I actually have experience here, even though I wasn't in this industry. So look at the record so you can remind yourself and your brain what you've actually done and bring that credibility. And the last thing I would add is when you're selling to a client, you're not asking them for a favor. Oh, please, 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 will you bring me in? You're not asking them for a favor. You're bringing them value. Hey, I've got some amazing things to share with your team, and I know it can make XYZ impact. I would love to offer this incredible benefit to you and your organization. You're giving them a gift. So that's all.
That is amazing. And that is gold right there. Because at this association we're at this weekend, they said so many things about that. Like, you have to view it like, you're not, like you said, you're not giving them a favor. They get the chance to hear your greatness or the thing the message that you're burning to share. I mean, even just this weekend, I see Ryan Tillman. He's at Boise State speaking to he's on this call right now. What's up, Ryan? Talking to the entire Boise State athletic department. It's like,
awesome.
Same thing. It's just unbelievable to watch it and watch it happen like that. So Julie, seriously, thank you so much. And like, this has been truly, Bo's over here going like this, because it was truly so helpful. And yeah, guys, if you want to connect with Julie, feel free to reach out to us. You guys can get linked up like Mark or whoever. We'd love to get you guys connected. And just know that one thing with Streamline as well, as we get leads from time to time for speaking, the goal is that, we have this awesome team of people, this community where we can share the wealth. If Will gets a request to go speak somewhere, he can't do it, we can just start putting them in this group. So we've started to do that a little bit more. We're going to try to get better about that. So just know that's coming down the pipe as well as we continue to build out that side of the business. And we just want to say thanks to you guys for being here. This is really fun for us. Nathan, Will, thanks for setting this up. Will, any last words? Your mustache is looking great today, Will. So any last words you want to leave us with?
Yeah. We have good lighting going on over here at this coffee shop. Sun's coming in. It's one thing I encouraged Julie in the writing process, and that she was signing on with Streamline. I mean, what little I knew of her through Alex, she said, Julie, your faithfulness over the years and coming alongside and promoting John's stuff and promoting Hershey's stuff, like, it is time for you, to write the book that you were born to write. And for some of our authors, they're going, well, I'm not Bob Goff, or I'm not John Acuff, or I'm not Brene Brown. And we say, you don't have to be them, because you're Julie Nee, you're Mark Martinez, you're Bo Payne, you're Liz Castleman, and we're going to help you write the book that you were born to write. So grateful for your time. Nathan, maybe you can bring us home just on a next step and follow up.
Yeah, after this call, you guys are going to be getting an email with that PDF that Will was talking about, the exercise. You guys don't have to fill that PDF out. if you've got a journal, you got a notebook, you got to open Google Doc, whatever. And it's going to be primarily focused on your website, honing in on very clearly what you want that to look like, the clear call to action. So you'll get that. Again, continue to check throughout the in-between calls in the LinkedIn group, whether it's encouraging each other as we see each other, whether it's speaking gigs or books being sold. That's where the conversation continues to go. And then we will continue to have these monthly coaching calls. Be on the lookout for when next month's get scheduled. But with that, thank you all so much for your time. 12:46.
Thanks, Julie.
Seconds over. Julie, thank you so much.
Julie, thank you.
Get a copy.
Brilliant.
Thanks, guys. That was so much fun.
Awesome.
Take care, y'all.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great day, guys. See you.
Go Sox.
Yeah, buddy.
I had to get that in there, Alex.
Hey, go Cards, go Cards, baby.
Go Sox.
Thanks, John.
I gotta go. Hey, thank y'all. I appreciate it.
Thanks,
Of
Bo.
course, Bo.
You
Grateful
bet.
for you, man.
Thanks, Bo.
Yeah, likewise, guys. Have a good day.
Of course. See you.
Does it stop recording by itself?
No, hold on.
Streamline t-shirts, baby.